Welcome back to another episode of That Backyard Property Pod mini-series on tour. Here we go. We are talking all things trust lending. There is so much out there in social media land, including this pod, that's talking about trust lending. Why? Because it does give you the ability to increase your borrowing capacity or at least have more borrowing capacity for future investments. This is absolutely general in nature. Trust, setting up a trust, getting a trust involved in a purchase is so much down the tax advice and strategy from an accountant. As I've said before, an accountant, a broker, and the client work together to get the best outcome. Accountant provides the tax advice and the strategy, and the broker can provide the lending advice around the structuring, and doing it together will give you the best outcome as an investor. Most people get stuck buying one investment property, but they have the desire to have 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it might be. It is categorically harder to grow your property portfolio now than it was when your parents were buying property. So do not compare, and comparison is the thief of joy. So if we're talking about trust, why do people talk about this to increase your borrowing capacity? The simple answer is if a property is owned by a trust and the debt is in the trust name and it has a corporate trustee, then in a lot of cases, that debt does not show on your personal credit report and therefore isn't factored in to your borrowing capacity. The other thing, Bank West are really good at this, is if you get a letter from your accountant to say that the trust loan is being serviced by the rent that's being received, then they can remove that debt from your personal borrowing calculations. It's unbelievable. So what I would do is I would look at how many properties you're trying to buy. I'd sit down with your accountant, understand what the tax benefits are of buying in a trust and also the negatives, because there are costs associated. And then I'd sit with a broker and understand what my borrowing capacity is, not for one property, not for two, maybe it's for three. Remember, when you buy a property and you put the purchaser's name on the contract, make sure you are aware of which entity you want the purchase to be in. Whether it's your name, your partner's name, combined, joint tenants, tenants in common, whether it's in a trust, whether it's in a company, because once it settles, the only way to get it from one purchaser entity to another is to pay stamp duty again. So the understanding of what entity you're trying to buy within is crucial and needs to be done before you purchase a property. So how do you grow your investment portfolio? Well, you could use trust. You can use a trust and you can buy property within the trust. But as I said, there's tax advantages and disadvantages. But not having that trust debt under your personal borrowing calculations obviously increases your ability to leverage and borrow more money. Because at the end of the day, investment portfolios, it's all about your ability to borrow money from the bank and leverage. And not everyone's comfortable with leveraging and borrowing more money, and that's absolutely fine. Stick within your comfort levels and make sure that you can still sleep at night, because owning 2, 3, 4 properties might not be your goal. You might not want to be a landlord. You might want to look at other investment strategies. But this mini-series was purely to have a bit of an understanding of why people are talking about borrowing capacities with trusts and sort of removing some of the myths that you can buy as many properties as possible. No, it's still based on your income, but the debt within the trust can be removed in some cases, and therefore you can increase your borrowing. If you are an investor or want to be an investor, then reach out with any questions at all, because as I said, the name of the game for investment profiles or portfolios is lending, and that's where brokers come in. As always, like, subscribe, send this out. Don't listen to your uncle or auntie at the barbecue telling you their expert tips. Jump onto this YouTube channel, which is pretty cool, and send it out to any friends and family. I can't wait to see you again next week. Until then, reach out, any questions. Let's do this. See you next week.